Good morning. Welcome. Sorry about that. That was like an extra long starting soon. I'm just having one of those mornings. Heidi needed an extra trip outside. I couldn't find my glasses. I needed to get an extra cup of coffee. Here we are. Welcome. Today is Saturday. What day is it? Saturday, May 16th. How's it going? My name is Angela. I'm a front-end developer in St. Paul, Minnesota. I hope you all are doing well. I forget to do this sometimes, and honestly, when I do it, it actually works. Would you be so kind as to like this video if you enjoy this type of content? Helps the algorithm, helps get it pushed out to more people who might like this type of thing. Subscribe if you aren't already. I'm here 4 days a week, Saturday, Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday. I live stream HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. We're just practicing vanilla. That's all it is. We just hang out, we practice, we keep our skills fresh, and we have a really good time, if I do say so myself. Today we are continuing work on this little beauty called Colorado. That's what I nicknamed it. The actual name is, for whatever reason, Kleenex. I don't ask me why the designers named it after an actual brand of tissue. Have no idea. We love Kleenex. There's nothing wrong with a good box of Kleenex. I'm here for it. I just don't know why they named this particular design Kleenex, so I renamed it Colorado. And today is it. So this is it, folks. We're going to finish the build on this site today. We're going to take a look at our QA list, and we're going to check off the things that we've done. We're going to remove the things that I have no intention of doing, and then tomorrow we're going to deploy. And then we're going to move on with our lives. This is I think today is part 21. Tomorrow's going to be part 22. That's too many. So I think one of the reasons this took so long is we spent a lot of time on the navigation doing sub menus. I don't know if I'm going to do that again because I don't enjoy that, or I didn't enjoy this. And it wasn't the actual functionality. I mean, I did spend quite a bit of time sort of working out how it should function. I'm still not sold on how we did it. I for sure don't love the styles. You know, part of what was really holding me back, if I want to phrase it like that, is that the subnav buttons, you know, excuse me, in order to be accessible, they need to have this tap target of 48 by 48 pixels. That's the accessible tap target. And so now I'm glad I'm talking about this again. I sort of talk about why this project took so long every day, and I always go back to the navigation. You know what else I think could have really been holding us back is that the top level item is a link, and it has a button for the navigation. And I don't think that that's wrong. But why do I think that a newer trend is that the top level item is not a link? The top level item acts as the button to open the submenu, and then everything that lives, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the right answer is here. I just know that I don't love this. And part of it is because I really felt like I had to treat this button as its own accessible tap target. And it had to be really distinct and separate from the actual nav item. I don't know how you get around that. If you're going to make sure that that button continues to be accessible, I just don't know how you get around that. So I think I have to start thinking of other ways to build submenus. I'm honestly kind of leaning towards like a mega menu. That way, anything that had subnavigation, well, first of all, if it didn't have subnavigation, the top level item would just click. It would just be a link. If it did have subnavigation, the top level item would serve as a button, and it would just open up another menu that showed everything that lived under that category. That might be a better approach. I don't know, maybe I need to spend a little more time just like surfing around like some e-commerce sites and seeing how other people are doing it. Maybe I need to do a little research on submenus. I don't know. It's just so much to think about. Ugh. This is the reason this is why this took so long. The freaking menu. So, okay. Well, there's that. Let's actually look at our QA list and check off the things that we are for sure not going to do and put done or doing next to the things we are going to do. So the hero text and button are not accessible. The home page meta content line is wrapping. What does that mean? Fix the slider next previous arrows on mobile. Fix the display of the button element. I vaguely remember that. Inner pages, fix the space between the header and the main content on mobile. So none of these things are features. These are all bugs. Increase the aspect ratio of the inner pages hero. Oh, this was on mobile. I do remember this. Check the date input styles on mobile. Yeah, I guess I remember that too. Fix the spacing container for the side element at the bottom of the inner pages. Sub nav buttons border left. I'm going to say that this is done. Need to refactor and organize our JavaScript files. Also done. General QA and styles. Why does Mac insist on reminding me that the caps lock is on? I know. I turned it on. That's how you know how I know? I turned it on. And if I forgot that I turned it on, you know how else I would know? Everything would be capitalized. I don't need the blue button. Mobile buttons and menu. I feel like this is done. We kind of figured it out. Double check the kitchen sink HTML and styles on the inner page template. Okay, this is more than I remember. This makes me feel like maybe deployment day has to be Tuesday. And maybe we need to finish what we're doing on the blog today because we still have to finish the sidebar and the responsive styles today. We can't do that and all the things on the QA list. So what if we finish the sidebar today, including the responsive styles, and then tomorrow is just a QA day? Like the whole day is just a QA day tomorrow. Yeah, I think we have to. Because I don't want to do those things off stream. I want to do those things on stream. And I don't want to deploy without doing these things because that's sloppy and messy and it's not being thorough. Okay, well, let's just get started. You know, it is what it is. I scheduled tomorrow's stream as a deployment day. I'll just move that to Tuesday and tomorrow will just be a QA day, just a head to toe QA day. And if we dedicate an entire day to QA, that 2 hours, you know, two-ish hours, it's plenty of time to go through each page top to bottom and get all those QA styles done. Plenty. Yeah. And then we don't have to worry about it today. We can just finish our sidebar and finish styling and locking in our responsive styles for the blog. That's completely fine. That actually buys me a little bit of time to keep getting ready for the next project, which is going to be I guess, vibe code. We're going to vibe code a mobile app. I had like a better response than I expected to my post about vibe coding. I had 28 votes. 79% said yes, 21% no, keep building UIs. So my apologies to the people who said no. If it's any consolation, I will be I'm calling it trad coding, which I heard the Primogen say, and I thought that was such a clever term. Maybe everybody's saying that. I am going to be trad coding the front end and doing, for lack of a better term, the art direction or the creative, whatever you want to call it. So I will be doing all the creative work and the front end HTML, CSS, JavaScript, but I need AI to do the back end. AI is saying we're going to do Swift UI. So, okay, whatever, you're in charge. You're doing the work. I guess you can choose. Says we're going to do Swift UI. It won't have a back end. So that's good. So there's not going to be any like authentication or anything like that. But I definitely need AI to help me with the like GitHub, Apple test flight workflow, all of that, right? That's the part that I need help with. And quite frankly, that's the part I have no desire to figure out on my own. So here's how I see it. I sort of see it as being like a 50-50 vibe coding project. I see AI really being in charge of like the there's no back end, so I don't want to call it a back end, but just like the infrastructure and the pipeline and the how do you get things from point A to point B. We can handle all of the, and I've used TestFlight before, so I have worked on mobile apps before. I have been hired to work on mobile apps and to work on the front end. So that process is not completely new to me. It's been years since I've needed to set up TestFlight. So that's going to be like a re-education, but I think it'll be fun and maybe it'll inspire other people to build mobile apps. And I mean, I'm going to record a video about this today as well. I did a video last week about just sort of feeling behind and how I don't really worry about it anymore because feeling behind at this point is like a baseline feeling. I've felt behind since the day I started. And yet there's no reason to, because I've had a great career and I know how to do a lot of stuff. I'm an excellent self-taught developer and self-learner. If I want to learn something new, I learn something new. It's funny, I woke up this morning and had a comment on that video that was like, just code more. I was like, good one. Why didn't I think of that? So I think my point is, though, that I also talked about AI as a part of that video. And I wrongly made the comment, well, I just didn't understand. I feel like I've had a few people like explain with a little more depth, sort of what AI is doing to the job market right now. Basically have just come into the comments and said, listen, I've been like, I know how to do XYZ. I've added all this value to my organization. I love my work. I'm fully engaged. I still lost my job to AI because the CEO wanted to cut costs and felt like, AI could do the work better than I could, meaning the CEO didn't see the value in what these people were doing. Heartbreaking, some of the stories that I've had in the comments. You should go check them out on that video. So those comments and watching more AI content on dev YouTube have really changed my mind about vibe coding. Whereas, a couple months ago, 100% against. I was like, this is ridiculous. I don't know why you would do this. It makes no sense. The joy in doing the work is that you do it yourself. And as far as I'm concerned, sure, I get help from AI when I'm in a bind and I'm working on a task and I need to get something done and I need to move forward. But vibe coding, no, absolutely not. And so I see these stories of people who are losing their jobs to AI, and I definitely am thinking to myself, like, okay, this is like officially starting to feel a little bit scary. Whereas I was not concerned. Now I'm a little concerned when I see people who are super engaged in the process and love their jobs still getting replaced. I'm like, yeah, that's a problem. That's probably going to continue to happen. And I'm glad that I've had people sort of like share their stories with me and point that out. And so that's what got me thinking, okay, I think I need to get on board now with a little deeper understanding of what it really means to have AI help you with a project. So I think we all kind of, well, I can only speak for myself, laugh at this idea of vibe coding. I think I need to understand these workflows and these processes a little bit more and that's why I'm doing it. I'll just be honest. That's why I'm doing it. But once I made the decision to give it a try and to go a little more in depth, then I was like, oh, actually, I do have ideas for apps, and I've never followed through on them because I just couldn't be bothered to understand what that process is to build and launch an app. So maybe now we can do that. So do you kind of see where I'm going here with this? So that's why I'm doing it. Yeah, I feel like maybe I've been in denial a little bit and I need to get on board. And I look at channels like Traversy. Let's look at Brad Traversy. YouTube at Traversy Media. Everything he does right now is AI. Like everything. Okay, TanStack, OpenClaw, React Native. Stop. Okay, new 16-hour AI course. Build a full stack SaaS with my AI workflow. He's not making coding tutorials anymore. Coding plus AI. And Kevin Cook also, or excuse me, Kyle Cook. YouTube. Kyle Cook. Okay. Come on. Here we go. No. It's Kyle Cook from Web. Why can't I find it? At Kyle Cook. Oh, for God's sakes. Web Dev Simplified. Here we go. So this is his main channel. Everything you need to know about local AI in 2026. So we're not gonna, I started watching this and I'm gonna finish it. Kyle Cook from Web Dev Simplified. Here, we'll go back to his channel. Come on. Everyone is wrong about AI coding. AI is finally acting human. Actual AI is finally acting human. Is it finally happening? I mean, he's getting clearly on board here with AI. Everybody is. So when I see, you know, two really reputable people like Kyle and Brad getting on board with it, now there it gets views, right? It gets clicks for sure. Obviously. And that's okay to like lean into something that you know is going to get views, but also I don't think that either of these two people would be doing this if they didn't want to actually do it. So maybe it's reluctant, I don't know, but they're clearly getting on board with it, and that is a signal to me that I need to like be a little more open-minded. So there's that. Okay, well, nobody asked, but this is what we're going to do. So there's that. Okay, so that's why I guess it was an explanation of why we're going to do it, but I don't know. People were mostly very supportive of the idea. So, all right, let's get back to work on our sidebar. We'll finish up this page today. We'll go ahead and do our deployment on Tuesday. Tomorrow then will just be a QA day. Those are pretty chill. And let's face it, it's very satisfying to just fix things that are broken and fix bugs, right? That's what I think. So let's just start working on our sidebar. So here's our design. We had an awesome day on Thursday. We did so much work. We did so much on Thursday. Let's take a look at this. We queried through and we used reduce to get these categories. We did a ton of date formatting. We made these page links down at the bottom here, all dynamic. We forgot to put in the years. So if we have time today, we'll go ahead and add the year to this. We did our load more button. we just got a ton done. I edited back that video as a project video this week, and I mean, it was just jam-packed. I was like, wow, that's a lot of JavaScript, but it was so much fun. Here's our sidebar. So we have our categories. We need to do a latest projects. I'm going to shift how this looks. Instead of a horizontal, we need to make these vertical and include a title. This is not obviously going to be accessible. I'm not going to pull in anything from X or Twitter for this, but I will make like a little widget here and we can just put that in. It'll just be static. And then I would like to put in a little mini accordion. I think that would be super cute. And we are going to we're going to reference our 30 days of vanilla JavaScript. If you weren't here for this, we had so much fun. We did this in April, and we are going to borrow this. We are not going to reinvent this wheel. We're going to have to, I'm just going to peek under the hood and grab some styles right out of the browser. And the only thing I'm going to do differently here is that I made this so you can only have one open at a time. So you open one and then the other one closes. And it's funny because for years when I worked at St. Thomas, that was the functionality that they wanted. And I have since learned that they ditched that. So they've gotten so much feedback from users that they want to be able to have multiple tabs open at a time. So I'm not going to change anything here on the 30 days website, but when we borrow this, what is it here? This, we're going to exclude this. This is on click, remove any active class. So we're not going to include that. So this is fairly straightforward, this JavaScript. I look at this and I remember how complex this felt when I was doing it. And I look at it now and I'm like, oh, we've come such a long way in the last couple of months. So, okay, so we are going to use this. Probably the hardest part of the accordion is going to be the styling. Not even the hardest, it's just going to be the part that takes the longest. So let's go back over to our sidebar. Right here. Oh, and I suppose I should say good morning, shouldn't I? There are people in the chat. Malik Robinson is here. Good morning, Malik. Malik is Go Elmo. He is our mod in the chat. He keeps an eye on us. He keeps an eye on me. He keeps an eye on you. He keeps an eye on all of us. I kind of feel like these should maybe be in their own little div. And also we have Alone Warrior says, hello. Good morning, Alone Warrior. Thanks for coming to hang out. Okay, so we'll do, I'm just going to call this sidebar wrap. It's not honestly going to have any styles. It's just a little container. It's just a container to keep things tidy. And, well, it probably will have some styles. We'll probably need to make sure that we'll probably need like margin or something, but I don't think it's going to need anything really crazy. So we'll do a sidebar, another sidebar wrap. And then our headings are going to be H3s, tertiary heading. And what is this? Latest projects. And honestly, I'm going to call this latest posts. Oh, maybe this was intended. No, we could do latest projects because we have a project page. So we could just do latest projects, although I don't have an API for that. So we're going to do latest posts. Listen, it's the same difference. It's the same thing. Okay. Okay. And so we need to attach this to something. So I'm going to say div latest posts container. And then this is where we are going to append latest posts. Okay. Let's stick this right down here. So, well, actually, it's kind of in the way. So here is our sidebar, our archive. This is how we render our list. It's our slice. So we're just going to go ahead and do a new function. I'm going to call this function init latest posts. Stuff goes here. And then obviously we need that data. We're only going to grab the first three things. I'm going to put it right here. And then let's make sure that we can see the data. Console log is your friend. Well, it's my friend at least. There we go. So we only want these first three things. Whoops. Okay. So our root element is going to be, well, I guess we can just make this the root element. We're just putting everything inside of there. We're just checking to make sure that that exists, right? That's really going to be the extent of the scoping. So we'll say const root is equal to document query selector latest post container, and then if there's no root, return, and then we'll say data for each item. So what do we want to make these? I think we'll make these like little articles, right? So we'll say article is equal to document create element article. And then since our sidebar header is an H3, I'm going to make this an H4. So we'll say document create element H4. I think, no, we also need a figure. So we'll say figure is document create element. This will be a figure tag. And then we need an image. We're going to create image. Yeah, that looks pretty good. I'm not going to give anything. I'll give these things classes if I need to. For now, I think we're fine. And then everything's going to be appended to the root. Okay. So how do we make sure that we only get 3 things? I feel like I should know that. Okay, I feel like I should know this. Do I just say data slice 0 to 3? Is that all I do? Const. Or can I say const? Maybe I can say items is equal to data slice 0, 3. And then this is items. that right? Feel like I should know that. Yeah, oh, look at me. What? It's like I know how to do things. It's like I know how to do things. My God. Okay. I love JavaScript. Is it just me? I can't, what did I wait so long for to figure out how to do this stuff? I don't know. I have no idea. Hold please. My Costco Claritin has not kicked in yet today. So, okay, so our H4 text content is going to be the item. I think it's just title, right? Title, yes. And our image source is going to be the item featured image. Yep. And then the image alt is going to be the item image alt. And then I think that I will give this figure a class. Class list add. I usually give the figures a class of figure. All right. And then I think we want to do figure append the image. And then article append the H4, the figure. The H4 and the figure. I think that's it. And then the root append the articles. What articles. Articles is not defined. Oh, article. Oh, and we need to do, okay, we need to make sure that we have the correct URL. So we already defined this, so that will just be, can use this here. Here's the source. So we'll just say boop. I think couldn't we just do URL plus that? Is that easier? That feels easier to me. No, but it's clearly wrong. Image. Oh, we just need a slash. No, we're gonna have to. URL slash. There. I think that'll work. There we go. Look at that. Now we just need to style that. And Loki is here. I'm so sorry. I'm having trouble. It's difficult sometimes to interpret the username, so my apologies. Says, hello, randomly found your stream on my For You page. Well, thank you for clicking. That's so nice. Do me a favor. Let's see here. Do me a favor. like if you haven't already. Clearly you're subscribed or you wouldn't be in the chat. And thanks for coming to hang out. I appreciate you. So what's somebody in my one of the comments called it need to nerd, like need to know, get it? Need to nerd. We're just being nerdy little front end developers building stuff. So, okay, so we'll come back and style that. It looks perfect. I wonder though if we need to make sure, we probably need to make sure in order for the styling to be correct. No, actually, it's the H4 and the figure. That's perfect. I do want to switch these around. And then the article, let's give this a class. So let's do this. I want the figure to come first. There and there. And then let's give this article a class because I am going to flexbox these two things. So we'll say article class list add well, we've already got latest post container. We'll just say latest post. How about that? There. Yeah, that should work. Yeah, I like it. That's going to make styling really easy. All right. What else do we need to do? This Twitter feed is just going to be static. I'm not pulling in any APIs. So this will be a sidebar wrap. And we have an H3 with the class of tertiary heading. And we'll say X, I don't know, Twitter. And we'll just give this that's a lot. We'll just give it a little bit of lorem ipsum. There we go. Perfect. What's next? Now we need our accordions. Tabulation. Div with the class of sidebar wrap. H3. Tertiary heading. Accordion. Okay. And then let's take a peek at this. We are, what did I say? This was going to be like my little library of UI elements. So here is how I set these up. We have an accordion item. We have an H3, which in this case is going to be an H4. And then we have a button with the type of button, a class of accordion trigger and button, and then aria expanded false. And then we have a span, which is just really the text for the title. And then we have our SVG, which is this is the plus button, and when it's open, it rotates. And then the sibling to the H3, or in our case an H4, is going to be a div with a class of accordion panel. The role will be region. And then we'll have paragraph text for the content. And then when something is open, we add a class. First accordion is active and aria expanded true. We're not going to do this either. I'm not going to do the first accordion, and I'm not going to do this. Yeah, that which greatly simplifies accordions. So the active class is doing all the work. The opening and the closing all happens with CSS. So this should be a breeze. I'm going to move this down. I can refer to it. So let's make sure that we get the correct markup in here. So I'm going to say div with a class of accordion item. And then we're going to have an H4. And then inside the H4, we'll have a button with a class of button. But we're also going to add an additional class called the accordion trigger. And yes, I do put a type on all of my buttons as a default, as a baseline, because buttons inside of a form element will always submit unless you add type button. And there's lots of reasons to put buttons inside of form elements that you don't want to submit. So I've just got into the habit of always putting type button on every button. That is how I do it. And in my opinion, it has value if that button ever gets moved or ends up inside of a form element. If an accordion ever ends up inside of a form element, now you don't have to worry about your buttons accidentally submitting the form. So there's that. And then I'm going to put in a span here and say web design. And then we need an SVG. I'm just going to steal. So here's our little plus sign right here. The SVG is aria hidden true. And it's fill none, stroke with an empty attribute. I get my SVGs from Ionicons, and they always have a stroke with an attribute of current color, I think it is. And as long as we can remove that, we have the ability to style that now. Okay, and then the sibling element to the H4 is a div with a class of accordion panel. And then we'll just put in a little bit of lorem ipsum here, just a tiny bit. We can add more if we need to. And I think we just want to make sure this has a role equal to region. Oh, and we need to make sure this is aria expanded false. All right, and I'm going to copy this. And then what do we have here? Web design, photography, people. Oops. Okay. So you can see here, this is clearly not styled. So I'm going to grab, let's just take a look here in the browser. See how this is styled. So everything that we're doing here, this transition to open and close, we're all doing that with CSS. So you can see here that there's an active item on the accordion that's open. And this is removing the active of whatever is open before we add it to the new one, whatever the one is that's being clicked. We're not going to do that this time. Anything could be expanded. So, but this active item is what is, so if we go here, the panel right here, this is what we used. Max height, 500 pixels. So max height, visibility hidden, but if it's active, then the panel is max height 500 pixels, but it only expands to whatever the content, whatever amount of space the content actually takes up. We use visibility because we don't want, if a panel is closed, we don't want a screen reader to be able to go into that panel, right? This is a button and it's a click event. And when we click, we add active, and we only want this to be visibility visible when it's open. That is the correct accessible way to do that. So, okay. So let's do a little bit of styling. So here's our accordion item. Here's our H3. Yeah, we're kind of forced into doing some styling here. That's okay. That is okay. Okay. So this is what? I'm going to just go out a little bit here. Accordion item, accordion trigger. Start with this. Accordion trigger. Here's our H4. Here's our button. So this is by default display inline block. So our accordion trigger needs to be display block, so it's with the 100%. Display block. I don't think we have to say with the 100%. I think it'll just do it. There we go. And then here's our H4. So on our accordion item H4, first of all, let's ditch that margin. And then let's make this, and also on this button, let's get rid of that padding. There we go. Tightens it up a little bit. Wait, where's our text? Why can't I see the words? Oh, because it's a button. Let's take out our class of button. Yeah, let's just take out the class of button, because I feel like that's just going to create more work. There we go. And now I want this button, and actually, okay. So now I'm going to flexbox this button. And the button is the trigger. So not display block. Actually, I want display flex. And it's going to be flex flow. It's going to be a row, no wrap. Justify content. Space between. Can't spell. Space between. Align items. Center. There we go. And then our SVG, I mean, it needs to be 48 by 48. So that's going to stay the way it is. And our button really, we can make the SVG smaller. I don't think I'm going to though, because that tab target is important. I want to make sure it's basically the perfect size. So I think on the button, I'm just going to add padding on the left. That's all I'm going to do. And then we'll change the size of the text. So I'm just going to do padding left. We'll give this like a rem. And then I'm going to say text transform uppercase, and we'll give it a little letter spacing of 1 pixel. There's our button. And then let's make sure that this has a border. We'll say 1 pixel, solid. I'm going to give it the medium gray color. There we go. This is starting to look normal now. And then how did I style this? I remember this took a while to figure out the best way to style this. I think it was just giving the panel a border. Yeah. So we'll give the accordion panel a border, but not on the top. And some padding. It's a little bigger. So we'll say border, 1 pixel solid. And this will be the medium gray color, but border top, none, because we already have the border. And then we'll just give this a little bit of padding. I'm going to say 0 on the top and bottom, 1 rem on the left and right, because I think our paragraph tag is going to give us more spacing. Okay, we're close. We're close. What did I do here? Yeah, oh, we need to, the paragraph is literally pushing that down. No problem. Accordion panel, paragraph tag, but just, well, let's just say margin 0 on top, 0 on the left and right, 1 rem on the bottom. Yeah, that looks pretty good. And then let's make sure that our accordion items are pushed apart. So we'll just say margin 0 on the top, 0 left and right, 1 rem on the bottom. Beautiful. And then I feel like I'm just going to have to give this, the padding, some padding on the top, which is fine. We'll just do it on the top and bottom. Oh. Should we just do it all the way around? But I don't want it on the bottom. So we'll do 1 rem on the top, 1 on the left and right, but not on the bottom. There we go. Because I do want the paragraph tags to still have margin on the bottom. So if you have multiple paragraphs, that's okay. And then obviously let's style this SVG. I mean, she's pretty big. Yeah, accordion trigger. We can just, we're going to have to make that SVG smaller, which I think is fine. We'll just make sure that we have enough padding for the tap target so the entire button is a good, juicy tap target. So this is the accordion trigger SVG. So I'm going to say, I know what it is right now. I know it's 3 rems by 3 rems. So I'm just going to say 2 rems width, 2 rems height. And I always set my SVGs to display block, always. And I always give them a fill and a stroke of blue and red. So the reason it's red is because I gave it a stroke of red by default, and then I know it's a stroke. I know what it is. I know what I need to do. And we do need to give our button a little more padding. So I think we could probably actually just give it a rem all the way around. That's pretty big. Maybe there, that's perfect. That looks great. Well, I want it to be a little more on the left and right. So let's do 0.5 on the top, 1 rem on the left and right. There we go. Yeah, and this SVG looks a little more proportional now. Okay, so let's actually collapse our panels. So our accordion panels need to be, we want them to be, by default, max height 0, visibility hidden. And visibility hidden is so it's not accessible by a screen reader if it's closed. And now this is pretty far apart. Oh yeah, that's getting, how did I deal with that? I remember. Yeah, I remember having to deal with that. How did I deal with that? I think I didn't deal with it. I just let the paragraphs, yeah, that's probably a better way to deal with it. Okay, so let's go back to, well, let's make sure that we have padding on the left and right. So if we take that out there, now it looks, we can adjust that, but that looks better. And then I think we need to just let the spacing inside the panel happen because of the margin. Yeah, but that's also, how did I deal with that? I am not seeing it here. Hang on. So this definitely has margin. Oh, no, it doesn't. It doesn't have margin. It has, instead of margin, I used padding. Okay. Because margin is on the outside of the box model, padding is on the inside. So we'll do 1 rem on the top and bottom, 0 on the left and right. There. There we go. Now you can see that it's collapsed. We can see that 1 pixel border. That's it. But there's no additional space. So I'm going to tighten this up a little bit. Say 0.5. There we are. And then let's change the color of that, our SVG. So that's a stroke, and we'll make that our medium. We could make it our accent color. There we go. Okay, so now we need the active styles. So on click, we are going to add an active class to the accordion item. So here's the trigger, add event listener, click. And we are basically here toggling. Well, we have this Boolean is active if the trigger contains the active class. And then if there is no active class, add the active class and change aria expanded to true. So there's just one active class on this top level right here, accordion item. So let's put an active class right here, and then we can style it. So there's our active. So if the accordion item is active, come down here, accordion item active, what happens? Well, we change the max height and the visibility of the panel. So accordion item active, accordion panel, max height. I'm going to say 500 pixels, but you can change that to whatever you want. Visibility, visible. We also need to transition this. So we can transition, we can't transition height, but we can transition max height and visibility. So we'll say transition, max height, 300 milliseconds, ease in, out, and then visibility, 300 milliseconds, ease in, out. So now when we add and remove the active class, we should see that transition. So there it's open. I'm going to come right in here to the DOM, just like that. It's not perfect. It's pretty gosh darn good though. Here's the other thing that I want to do is I want to rotate. This is going to be rotated 45 degrees. So that's our SVG. So I'm going to say transform. I think it's just rotate, right? Rotate 0. And then we're going to do accordion item active accordion trigger SVG. I suppose we could just do SVG, right? Transform, rotate, which we want to go left or right. I'm going to do negative 45 degrees. And we also need to make sure that we animate that. I'm going to say transition, transform, 300 milliseconds, and ease in, out. That works. You know what I don't what I'm not loving is I don't like the padding on the right. So I'm going to change that value. It's fussy. It's fussy. So here we have 0.5 rems on the top and bottom, 1 rem on the left and right. So this would be top, right, bottom, left. So this is going to be top, right, bottom, left. Yeah, that looks a little more proportional. All right, well, there's our accordion. So let's wire that up with a little bit of JavaScript. We should probably do a separate module for accordions. So let's do that. Accordion JS. And here's our script. So we'll say export default function init accordion. And then I'm going to say import init accordion. So there's that. And then what are we going to scope this to? Well, we have this sidebar wrap as a parent container. We're not creating elements or rendering to the DOM. So I think that it's okay to just add this class, Accordion. So I'm just going to add maybe with something a little more dynamic, accordion panels. So accordion panels, this is how we're going to scope this element. I'm going to say const root equals query selector. What is that? Document query selector. And then if there's no root, just go ahead and return. All right, what else do we need to do here? So we're going to get our items and we're going to get our triggers. Items is equal to root query selector all. And I think we just said it's accordion items. And then we want our triggers. That is equal to root query selector all. And that's accordion trigger. Whoop. All right. First accordion is active and aria expanded true. I'm not going to do that. And then we're just going to for each through our items and then grab that first. And of course, query selector all gives us a node list, not an array. So we can for each through a node list. But we could obviously turn that into an array if we need to. And then we're going to get our trigger, which is equal to the item query selector accordion item. Make sure I'm grabbing the correct things here. So accordion item, accordion trigger. Yeah, I think I got that. Accordion item, accordion trigger. Okay, what else do we need to do here? And then we need an event listener on our trigger, and we want a Boolean is active if our item contains an active class. Trigger, add event listener, click. And I don't think we're going to need any event delegation. And then we're going to say const is active is equal to if the item class list contains active. The thing we just clicked on, item class list contains active. On click remove any active class. We're not going to do that. You can have as many open as you want. And then we're just going to say if is active, or if it's not active, add active. And on the trigger, the button, set the attribute aria expanded. So if it's not active, oops, item, class list, add, active. Oops. And then trigger, set attribute, aria expanded, there we go, aria expanded true. Which means that we are, you know what though, we are going to have to this is going to have to be a toggle, I think. Is active is going to toggle. Yeah, not contains. Because you have to be able to click on the thing and also remove it. So if is active, if it's not active, add active, else item. I know this could be a ternary operator, but just bear with me, indulge me. Remove active. And then we want to set this to false. Let's just make sure it works. And yes, I like to type it out. I like to type it out. Oh, what's happening? Add event listener. Okay. What did I do? Trigger, item, whoops. No, that's right. Accordion trigger. There we go. And then let's take out, I think we had active in here by default. Oops, what's happening? Okay, what'd I do? Selector, trigger. Whoop. Is active. Don't tell me. Oh, no. Hmm. Well, let's just start console logging our way through this to make sure that we can figure out where we're failing. So can we see the trigger? Like that's the first thing. Yes, we can see the trigger. So we're getting all three triggers. Can we get the trigger on click? We can. Okay. So if I feel like we maybe need to switch this around. If is active, remove and set aria expanded to false, else add and set to true. Item class list toggle. The item is, hang on. Whoop. Yeah, the accordion item. Why isn't my toggle working? Well, do we need we don't need this though, right? We don't need to add and remove the toggle. There we go. Okay. I knew I was doing it right. Yeah, we don't need to add and remove the toggle if we're toggling, right? We just need to make sure that we are, so let's make sure that we are correctly at, well, I know that we are. I just want to see our aria attribute get updated. There we go. Expanded true. Okay, that's backwards. So we just need to fix that. So if is active, set attribute, wait a second. This is backwards. If is active, so I want to do if it's not active. I do want to do that. If it's not active, I want it to be aria expanded false. I think that's what I want. Because it's false by default. There we go. That's what I wanted. There we go. Beautiful. There's our accordion. And Hope is here and says, hello. React would be fast and effective on this blog development. Well, I'm sure that's true. Hope also says, please tell us how the states are being manually managed on this site since it uses plain.js. So I think it is tricky to manage states throughout this website. Great question. She will respond when she takes a break. You know what? The GitHub repository is linked down in the description. You are welcome to take a look at that if you have questions. Moving forward. Moving forward. All right, let's do some styling. Our sidebar, basically done. I'm not going to do the additional plain text widget because we basically already did that with our little Twitter X widget here. So let's just go ahead and get this styled. Where are we at on time? We have about 35 minutes left, and we should be able to finish styling this page and getting the responsive styles implemented. One moment. Moving along. Let's pull this out a little bit. Okay. So first, let's make sure that this section and blog section right here, I think we want to make sure that if the blog layout has a section, we're just going to go ahead and remove that padding, which I think we did already. Yeah, that works. So here's our blog section. Blog layout, blog section. I'm just going to say, I think we can just say blog layout section. I think that'll fix it. There we go. Now it's lined up. And then in our side, we have our sidebar wraps. We'll just give those a little bit of margin. And then let's call this Accordion. This is the sidebar wrap. I'm just going to say margin 0, 0, 0, 1 rem. We can give that a little extra space if we need to. Yeah, I will. Perfect. And then in our latest posts, we'll do our latest post container. Well, maybe we'll just do latest post. I don't know if we need to really style this container yet. We'll come back if we have to. But I'm going to say display flex, flex flow, row, no wrap. I guess I'll do justify content space between. Align items, center. And we need to style this figure. So this is going to be the latest post figure. Oh, latest post, not posts. And I'm going to say width. Well, do we have some? We have some default styles here. So I think all I need to do is change the aspect ratio. And I'm just going to say 1 for square. That looks pretty good. But I'm going to change the width. So right now this is 108 by 108. So I'm going to make this a little smaller. So we'll say width, I'm going to say 75 pixels. Oh, that's very small. Really? That was 108? I'm going to, okay. Yeah, this is the thing that I don't like about Flexbox is that let's try to, I need to simplify this a little bit. Max width. I probably want to use flex. And I think I'm going to do flex start and just add a gap of 1 rem. And then just keep this aspect ratio like this. There. That's all I'm going to do. I'm going to keep it simple. I'm going to let it just size itself. Yeah, and just let it be. And then I don't think it needs, it's got a lot of, where's this extra space coming from? Coming from the H4. Latest post, H4. I'm just going to take out the margin. I'm going to take out the margin. Yeah, it's just forcing me to put in a width for this figure. Like a real width. Maybe Honestly, maybe it's better to do grid for this. Every time I do, I mean, not every time, but once in a while I use Flexbox and it's like I'm using it for the first time. It's annoying sometimes. Grid template columns. I think I'm just going to say, um, we'll just say repeat. Well, do I want them to be even? I'm going to say 1 FR, 2 FR. Let's see how that looks. You know what? That's actually perfect. And then we'll give these a little bit of margin on the bottom. Beautiful. Perfect. So much easier. And then let's make sure that these are linkable, that they're just styled to support an actual link. Oh, and that would be in our so we would want to add that inside the H4. So let's go ahead and add a link here. Document, create element. And then our link href is the item slug. And then we want to H4 append the link. Did I get that right? Oh, no, we want the link text. So here's our article. Here's our H4. Here's our link, our figure. Oh, and we need to make sure that we have that. Oh, here's our alt text. There we go. The only thing I'm going to do differently to that H4 text is make it not bold. That's it. And so I'm going to say font weight 400. And what is the line height? Let's add H4 to our heading line heights, which is right here. That's cozy. Let's make sure that these let's go back down to our sidebar. Oops. Let's make sure that we align items center because I think stretch is the default. There we go. Beautiful. We could even instead of showing if technically we're already seeing the 3 latest posts, we could just call this other posts or more posts and show the next 3 posts, right? What if we did that? So if we're slicing 0 to 3, let's do 3 to, so it would be 3, 4, 5, 6, 3 to 6. And we could just get the next 3. Yeah. And then instead of latest posts, we can say more posts. Strategy. And then let's make sure that I do think that this needs more breathing room in between. What do we think? That is a nice little sidebar. I like it. We have our accordion. See, I feel like we maybe want to not transition the visibility. How did we do that? I feel like I spent some time thinking about that too. So let's go back to let's take a look here. Oh, it was the color. I also transitioned the color. I think that's why. So when the panel is closed, the color is transparent. Yeah. Let's do that. So we've got max height, 0, visibility hidden, and then color transparent. I think that's going to make that a lot smoother. So that means we want to transition the color of the text, ease in, out, and then when the panel is active, the color is our default black color. See if that gives us a little smoother transition. Yes. That instantly changed it. Instantly changed it. That looks so nice now. Let's make sure that, because these are buttons, let's make sure that these have a hover active focus. So that's our trigger right here. Oh, it looks so nice. So we want a focus. Hover active. So we know right now that our background color is basically transparent, but we're just going to go ahead and set it. So we want to be, because we want to be able to transition that. And we know that our text color, I'll put it right here. We know that our text color is also black, but again, we want to be able to transition that. So we're going to define those two things explicitly. So let's, and then we'll deal with the SVG separately. So on focus hover active, we're going to change the color to white. And we're going to change our background color to, we'll do our accent color. And then we want to transition those. So we'll say color, 300 milliseconds, ease in, out. Background color, also 300 milliseconds, ease in, out. And then we're going to want to add the active class. So if we have an accordion item that is active, we could probably just do something like active, although I don't want to do that because there could be other active items on the page. So we really want to do this. We could just add an active class to the button too. Yes, of course. So the accordion, if the accordion item is active, then the accordion trigger should also have these styles. Now it's got that style. I'm actually thinking that I'm going to start adding or removing this active because the buttons by default in the browser stay active. You have to like click off. Maybe that doesn't matter. I think I'm going to start leaving it off. The most important part is a focus and for sure a hover. Yeah. So let's make sure that we are also transitioning the accordion trigger SVG. So I'm going to borrow this. Put it right here. So when these things are true, we want to trigger that SVG. Just like that, except instead of a color or a background, it's the stroke. I'm just going to change this to stroke. And then we're also going to add stroke to our transition. So stroke, 300 milliseconds, ease in, out. It looks so nice. I love it. Look at our cute little accordion. Super adorable. All right. Well, let's do, we need to do some responsive styles. Give me one moment, please. Yeah, I think it's really good that we're going to do a full day of QA tomorrow. I knew as soon as I saw our list that that was pretty aggressive, and I just had a feeling that we were going to spend a lot of the day today finishing this sidebar, and I'm thrilled with how it looks. I absolutely love it. I had another thought, which was, and we're gonna work on, if we don't get to all of the mobile styles today for this, I think we can just do it. We can just add it to our QA day tomorrow. I'm like officially not worried about it at all. Here's what I was thinking. Should we make our sidebar sticky in that container so when you scroll, it scrolls with it? Let's do it. Let's do it. So here's our sidebar container right here. Here's our section. So let's make sure that the aside sidebar is sticky relative to the blog layout. So we do need to make sure, I think that the blog layout is going to need to be position relative. And then our sidebar, which is just sidebar. Oops. Is going to be position sticky. And I think we have to say top 0, left 0, or at least I'm going to. And width 100%. I think it's safe to give these things a little bit of z-index. Let's give our relative container a z-index of 0. And pray to the front-end development gods that we don't get into a battle of the z-indexes. Okay. Oh, and you know why that's not working? It's because the parent container is scrolling. So the reason that's not okay, it's yeah, this would have to scroll independently for that to work. Let me think about that overnight. I might have to think about that for a second. When the parent container starts to where do I have another good example? Hang on, let's look at this. It's been a while since I've done a sticky sidebar. So this is something that we did last year. And I made this sticky. How in the heck did I do that? Yeah, so this needs to be position relative, and then this needs to be sticky. So I think we just need to add a sticky container inside. Let's try it. We'll call it the sticky. Let's just call it what it is. sticky container. Lots of divs, so many divs. So now we have this sticky container. And then this is the relative container, and then this is sticky. Right? I think so. So we can take this out. Sticky container. And then this is position relative, and we'll give this as the index of 0. There we go. So this is going to come in handy when we've got that load more, right? I don't know, is that weird that it's going to push it down though? Might be a little weird. We can sit with it overnight. And then let's give this a little bit of, I don't know. That looks a lot better. Maybe we want to show more items, because if you have further to scroll, then it wouldn't pop down, right? So maybe we want 4 items per page. So we've got 10 items. That means we'll have 3 pages. It's always we're always going to be scrolling past it. If we had more items in the sidebar, no, I don't think that would matter either. Well, think about it. I'll think about it overnight. I know there's a good solution for this. Maybe it's just because my screen's really big. So if that was more like a traditional. Yeah, it's always going to. And maybe it's just a bad idea. There's that too. Okay. This was a good day. I love what we got done today. Our sidebar looks amazing. Our accordion looks awesome. Yeah, because I don't want to. I don't really want. If you load more and then it suddenly pops back down again, is that weird? That it suddenly does that? It feels weird to me. So I have a feeling that we'll just take that out and not worry about it. Also, if you had a really long sidebar, lots of items in it, you would be waiting forever. You wouldn't even be able to scroll down in your sidebar unless you had enough room. So we'll take that out tomorrow. It was a nice idea. It was a nice little experiment. And it's a good idea to experiment, try things out. So And Malik says, great work. Thank you, Malik. I appreciate that. Dante is here and says, oh, we're live. Hello. Welcome. Do me a favor. If you haven't yet, would you be so kind as to like the video? Helps the algorithm, helps get this pushed out to more people who might be interested in this type of content. Subscribe if you aren't already. I'm here 4 days a week, Saturday, Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday, and I would appreciate it so much. So come back tomorrow. We'll go ahead and work. We're just going to do QA all day tomorrow, and then we're going to get this thing deployed on Tuesday, and then we're going to move on. Have a great rest of your day wherever you are. I love you all so much, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.